Pistons trade proposal lands Zion Williamson in offseason after Joe Dumars hiring. Should the Pistons trade for Zion Williamson? The New Orleans Pelicans fired David Griffin, and they quickly replaced him in the role of president of basketball operations with Joe Dumars. A massive change in the front office could lead to massive changes on the roster, as Dumars isn't tied to the players that the previous regime brought in. That means that Zion Williamson could end up on the trading block. Williamson is a former #1 overall pick, and while he has scored at will when he has been on the court, his 6-year career has largely been a disappointment because he has been so frequently injured. Weight management, conditioning issues, subpar defense, and off-the-court drama have all plagued Williamson too. And Dumars might decide that the best course of action is moving on from the Duke product. That won't be an easy choice to make because Williamson was one of the greatest college basketball players of the 21st century and one of the most highly touted prospects in NBA history, but the team has to be growing tired of his shortcomings at the professional level. If Dumars and the Pelicans do decide to trade Williamson, then perhaps a deal with the Detroit Pistons makes sense. Dumars is, of course, one of the best players in Pistons history. He also won a championship with the team as the general manager in 2004. His ties and connections with Detroit's franchise could make doing business easier, but what deal could the Pistons pull off? Pistons trade proposal for Zion Williamson. Pistons receive. Zion Williamson. Pelicans receive Tobias Harris, Ron Holland, 2027 first-round pick, 2029 first-round pick. Just last season, the Pistons tied the record for the most consecutive losses by a single franchise. They established themselves as one of the worst teams in recent memory in the process. Cade Cunningham and crew have completely turned things around, though, and now they will be competing in the 2025 NBA playoffs. Cunningham has developed into one of the best players in the NBA, and Detroit's roster is filled with other recent first-round draft prospects. Jalen Duren, Oscar Thompson, Isaiah Stewart, Jaden Ivey, and Ron Holland were all taken early in their respective recent drafts, and they've all played important roles this season. The additions of veterans such as Tobias Harris, Simon Fontecchio, Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Malik Beasley have helped the Pistons take the next step, though. Perhaps Detroit will make a surprise run in the postseason, but they still seem to be one piece away. That missing piece could be Williamson. While Williamson has struggled with injuries throughout his career, he still has sky-high potential. A change of scenery could do him well and allow him to become the megastar that everybody knows that he can become. Williamson is one of the best dunkers and athletes in the NBA. He is nearly unstoppable in the painted area. Outside of health, his biggest weaknesses are three-point shooting and rim protection, but the Pistons have plenty of players who can mask those weaknesses already on the roster. Detroit has enough draft capital to trade that they shouldn't have to sacrifice too much of their rotation in a Williamson deal. Harris has been solid in Detroit, but he is the most expensive player on the roster besides Cunningham, and Williamson plays his position. Holland was a first-round pick last year, but a surplus of other young players on the team has prevented him from getting heavy minutes. Williamson would certainly be a risky trade acquisition for the Pistons, but a trade for the power forward could also pay off in dividends. Does Joe Dumars' vision include Zion Williamson? The state of the Pelicans isn't great right now. A couple of years ago, they looked to have a solid young core that could eventually develop into a championship-level team. Instead, they've regressed mightily, largely because the entire roster, and not just Williamson, has been bitten by the injury bug. Now, a rebuild of sorts might be inevitable. In fact, it might have already started when the team traded Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors ahead of the NBA trade deadline. The Pelicans only returned Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, 1 first-round pick, and 1 second-round pick in that deal. It was a somewhat underwhelming return for the former All-Star. While Williamson's injury red flags might prevent the team from receiving a massive haul in return for him, he would still net a bigger package of picks and players than was received for Ingram. This deal could help kickstart a new era in New Orleans. In this proposed trade, the Pelicans receive 2 first-round picks and the number 5 pick from last year's draft. Considering the risk associated with Williamson, the team might not receive a better offer. The Pistons' trade offer might be enough for Dumars to agree to a trade, especially consider